Oh, hi there. Hi. Right, I'll just introduce myself. My name's Josh. I'm known as Pom in some circles as well. So I'm a professional tarot reader, like quite new, but looking to get the business going. Now, you're probably thinking, what has tarot got to do with birds? I've been using tarot for quite a long time to find birds, to know where to go, and just get a feel of like what the day's gonna be like. And I found it really useful. What I'd like to do, I know in the past people have done these kind of sort of prediction things based on the weather. Tarot isn't really about predicting, but let's give it a go. It could be fun. It could be disastrous. Please don't expect me to absolutely predict everything that is going to happen. But we'll do these like weekly forecasts. I'm looking at the weather as well, but analysing the cards, and it's really like what birds might turn up, what kind of people might be associated with like finding those birds, and just what the kind of like general mood will be. So okay, I mean, there's plenty more to talk about, but let's get going on this week's prediction. One thing people one thing people say to me with tarot is like, can I not have death? And my first online tarot card happens to be death. And what I'm going to do with this, so up to 7 cards, sort of denoting the days of the week. So I would say these 2 cards are the early part of the week. We've got like middle of the week, these 2 cards. I mean, maybe this one is Saturday, this one is Sunday, because that's when most people go out birding. But let's kick off. I knew we were going to get death. And I think we got death at the moment because it really feels like the end of the migration in terms of all the summer visitors. There's this kind of long, quite slow exodus. I mean, you see here as well, like the swallows. I know there's been thousands and thousands of swallows in the last few days, particularly offshore. But I mean, it's always quite sad. It's a sort of transitional time, but it's always you feel a bit melancholy. You feel a bit sad to see these sort of beautiful summer visitors preparing to leave, and then there's also a kind of aspect of uncertainty. I know with like declining species at the moment. This is the Wheel of Fortune, and this is about what the Wheel of Fortune says. It talks about fate, it talks about luck, it talks about destiny, it talks about how we can't really control. If we try to control, then we're going to get thrown off the wheel. It's about being at the centre. You see the moon as well, so it's about cycles. We've had this like big moon recently. And yeah, I mean, it reminded me. I remember, like the mate once said he had a dream, and like in the spring, none of the migrants returned. And so yeah, there are uncertain times, but the wheel just allows us to sort of realise that we can't control like everything, and let fate run its course. So we've got this kind of almost sort of like decline, this sort of transitional time happening at the moment. And I mean, this is specifically for Sussex. Yeah, I'm not interested in twitching the rest of the country. Stay in Sussex, and this is about what potentially we could find in the coming days. And we got like the lovers here. We got parrots. So we got like very like loud, talkative birds. I know there's been a lot of yellowbrowds like turning up on the east coast, and if I want to make a call, I think we might get some yellowbrowds like in the middle of the week. It's a bird that fills my heart with love. They kind of joyous call and joyous activity and hyperactive and not spectacularly colourful, but in a really startling way. They've got this sort of brilliant plumage, and even with parrots sort of impersonating the call, if you learn the yellow-browed call, you can impersonate it quite easily. You can sort of bring them out with pishing sometimes. I'll try and do it now. It's like wheat, 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 wheat. It's terrible, but I think in the middle of the week, even if it's not yellow-browed, could be like firecrest, something sort of very, very colourful that's going to arrive. And yeah, it just kind of sort of lifts the spirits, after this sort of like transitional time that's been happening. Also late in the week, and I mean this is kind of looking at the weather as well. This card is strength, and it's interesting that it's got small birds as well. It's got hummingbirds, so maybe quite exotic. So maybe something really interesting is gonna come in with if we do have yellowbrowds. It's like we're not gonna have yellowbrowds after this, but there you go. But yeah, strength. I mean, just looking at the forecast, there's actually some really strong winds forecast for later in the week. Strong southwesterlies, I believe. So I mean, that could just denote like strong winds. So get out there sea watching, I'd say. Certainly give it a go. And I think also sort of like strength is about sort of stuff from like is coming up from within. It's about being courageous. It's about being strong and brave. And maybe if you've been like looking all week and it's still not happening, and you keep on missing sort of decent birds, I guess the birders that go out every day, you sort of feel sometimes, God, it's like it's exhausting. It's like you got to be strong there. But that's interesting. That like. It's interesting how this card is going to manifest, like what strength is going to mean later in the week. We've got. I'm just going to move the. So we've got Pavarotti here with his swallow-tailed kites. Hang on a minute. This thing's. No. Yeah, you get the idea. These are weird cards, but it's the only tarot deck that I've actually got, which is just purely birds, and it's called The Secret Language of Birds. It's like a pip deck, so I haven't even got like the numbered cards that kind of all look the same. I don't really do that Marseille system. I digress. We've got a really interesting card here. Now, this is the Hierophant. It's the Pope. I think this represents Sunday, and this looks like a find for someone. The Hierophant it's about tradition. It talks about history. It talks about a kind of governance and religion. So this could even be like looking in, like churchyards. I know we've got a very good birder in Pagham who likes, he keeps on getting some like brilliant records. Sort of religious man. Could be a find for him. It's about tradition, so I'm wondering if there's going to be a really decent bird at one of these sort of traditional sites, like Pagham, Cookmere, Rye, somewhere like that. But with such an extraordinary birds here, I think this is swallowtail kite, and this looks like black-shouldered kite. And I mean, obviously, when Pavarotti came along in the 1990 World Cup, it's sort of I think everyone learned something about his voice, so it could be something to do with voice as well. But certainly, as we get into the sort of nitty gritty of the autumn, where some really decent stuff could potentially turn up, I think this is one to look at. So that's the prediction of the week. I will do these sort of ongoing basis, certainly through sort of peak migration times. Tarot is not an exact art. You can never get a completely, by any means, perfect tarot reading. So yeah, it's just a bit of fun, but it'd be interesting to sort of see how some of these things transpire. It just leaves me to say sort of enjoy your week, keep on going. And I think there's just going to be some really nice sort of colourful action in the middle of the week, which I hope a lot of people get on. Okay, until next time. Cheers. Bye.